Bhutale Vipakadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamlam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sargana Raghunatham Tam Tam Sajiva Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kantara Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Devatarinam. Hare Bol. So we are studying chapter 17 today, the divisions of faith. So Krishna is further clarifying from the modes of nature we discussed last week. He is giving further details on how to understand and analyze faith. So the context for this chapter is that in 16th chapter, primarily Krishna talked about godly and ungodly, primarily focused on ungodly, how ungodly people behave, because most of the Bhagavad Gita is already focused on godly characteristics. So it was focused primarily on ungodly. So from so far, whatever is discussed, we understand godly have faith, and they also adhere to scriptural injunctions. Okay? And primarily ungodly people are those who reject the scriptures because they have no faith, and because they have no faith, they are simply go downward. In any case, even if ungodly people, if they adopt to scriptures and follow the scriptural injunctions, they will slowly get elevated. That's the summary of 16th chapter. So now Arjuna inquires from Krishna, what about the people in between? Right? There will always be people in between who have faith in something other than the injunctions of the scripture. So this is the beginning of this chapter 17.1, where Arjuna asks Krishna. So he's just clarifying whatever the subject that is discussed in 16th chapter by Krishna. So Arjuna vacha isastra vidhim ustrijya yajante shraddhayanvita tesham nishtha tukha Krishna sattvam maho rajastamam. Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of scriptures but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, passion, or ignorance? This is something that we constantly come across, isn't it? Because we see so many organizations all around us who do not follow the exact scriptures, but they follow something on their own, isn't it? Especially this is very much visible in our current society. So it's a very practical question Arjuna asked, and Krishna gives a very powerful answer revealed through various verses. How to analyze? We cannot blanketly say, hey, whoever is not following Bhagavad Gita, they're all gone case, because every process has merits and demerits. So accordingly, we have to analyze. We cannot just blanketly reject. Like sometimes devotees naively see that any Mayavadi means just untouchable, right? That's how they see. But so we have to see. We should have a better understanding about this situation. So that's what Krishna is discussing in this chapter. So So this chapter has, it's a very small chapter, about 28 verses. So the first 4 verses focus on how to recognize faith levels by modes. Modes, how do the modes determine the faith? And next 2 verses discuss about demonic austerity. No, one can perform austerity only if he has faith, but here is a faith exhibited by demons that is discussed. It means that faith in itself, having faith in itself doesn't mean much. It could be because, it can be demonic in tendency also. And then, so this 7 to 22 is the prime section of this chapter, which is going to discuss about how food, sacrifice, austerity, and charity is divided in the 3 modes. Right? And then towards the end, how anything can become a sacrifice when one does with proper utterance and consciousness. Utterance is Om Tat Sat. We'll discuss more in detail. Everybody is there today. I know a couple of people went out to. Yeah. So yeah, now in the modern society, we see so many groups. Right? This Yagoda Society, Chinmaya Mission, Vivekananda Society. So everybody is, having their own systems that they follow, faith they have, faith they build, or the things that they have faith in. So how do we contextualize within the scriptural worldview? Because scriptures do not refer to many of these processes, right? Do we hear about anything like heart yoga in scriptures? We don't, right? So how do we, where do we, how do we judge just based on what they do, right? Because every system, if you analyze, if you go and ask, they have philosophy and practices, 2 things, theory and practice. So if you look at their theory, you understand their worldview, and by practices we can estimate, in which modes they fit in. So Krishna gives us a framework so that we can analyze how we can analyze where they fit in. Actually, anybody, it doesn't matter. So for this, we need to understand few important key concepts. That's what Krishna will discuss over the next several verses. So we are shaped by not just our ideological faith, but our functional faith. What does it mean? Ideological faith means the ideology you have, the things that you believe in. Right? Functional faith means the things that you do because of what you believe in. There are 2 things, right? One is your belief system. The other is the way you act in life, right? All of us in Krishna consciousness, what is our belief? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. What is our functional faith? We offer so many things to Krishna, and we try to remember Krishna, all the practices of devotion service. Those are all part of functional faith. Even when you work, there are things that we do based on the way we function, right? Based on our faith. So both are very important, right? So one, we cannot judge just by one's ideology whether he's good or bad. We have to see what is his functional faith. On the ground, what does he do? That's very critical, because that is the ultimate measure, actually. You can say many things, but you don't do anything, then, according to what you say, people can be hypocritical, right? So ultimately, what matters is your functional faith. That's what is important. 17.2, this concept is discussed. So, and we have all the combinations, right? Somebody does not have any faith in God, but functionally he might be doing very well, meaning he could be charitable. We know many billionaires, they don't have faith in God, but on the ground level they function very well, right? So they are charitable, they are very kind and forgiving, and many good qualities they may have. Yeah. So the question is, can atheists be good people? Right? This is a common question that comes. The answer is yes, they can be. The reason is, atheism in itself doesn't make one good or bad. Okay. Atheism is part of his belief system. Try to understand this. So atheism is part of his belief system. It in itself doesn't need to make, because no, because of some upbringing, or some kind of experiences, people may become atheistic, but their nature could be very nice. Um, by their by their behavior, they could be very good, isn't it? We have seen such people, right? They're in their faith, they do not believe in God, but in their actions, they're very kind and generous. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. I have a cousin,
Yeah.
and just want to share my story side. I have a cousin who is his parents are from Vallabhacharya Sampradaya,
Mm.
and he's initiated at child, being a like child,
Mm-hmm.
and then he grew up just watching that parents are doing devotional activities.
Mm.
But at some point in college,
Mm.
he turned his faith,
Mm.
and now since then
Mm.
he is becoming like, I don't like temple, I don't want to see temple, I don't want. So once we did some Bhagavatam at our place, and we invited him to visit because it's my parents 50 years and anniversary,
Mm.
and he came, but he did not attend a single day of Bhagavatam class. He
Mm.
just stayed away completely. So, but in general, he's good, nice. Otherwise,
Mm.
with the day-to-day interaction, he is not harmful. He
Yeah,
won't like go and sell that. Oh no, none of the people should attend this or all.
but accord
But
for
he
him
has his
it's
own faith.
difficult to accept, right? For him, so that's
Yes,
what people are shaped by their experiences also. So we cannot
yes,
just say blanketly they are all bad just because,
right,
yeah, faith in itself doesn't determine whether one is good or bad.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. So, is it very hard for such people to accept the devotional life, Prabhuji, or they may turn it back at some point?
They can change, yeah, they can change again through experiences only. So that's
Okay,
why the important point for us is to not judge them to be bad. That's
got it.
so we
That's the
have to
number one
be,
thing.
that's the main lesson we have to learn.
Right.
I know devotees who see impersonally as like worms. They don't even want to talk to them. you know so we shouldn't be like that. So this is the lesson. So suppose so there is a good example here. A person is there, okay?
Mhm,
He knows, he's driving a car.
mhm,
He has a map on where to go, but his driving is so bad that he hits the neighbor and crosses the lanes. But he has a map. He has a destination. Versus another person who drives smoothly, but he doesn't have a destination. Okay, so the first person is like a devotee. He doesn't behave well. You know, he always quarrels, talks negative, but he has a destination, meaning he knows that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, but his behavior is bad. But on the other hand, there is another person who behaves very nicely, understandable, very, but he doesn't have faith in God. Who is good? If a question is asked, right? Who is good? I mean, it depends on the context, right? So, so in these two people, if the person is driving smooth, he doesn't undergo any accident, right? First thing, though he may not reach the destination, people judge by one's behavior. They don't judge by, oh, are you from ISKCON? Oh, you're great. No, nobody says like that. They judge by our behavior. They judge by our actions, isn't it? So ideally, in ideal case, you should have right ideology and you should function, or you should have good behavior, both. You should have ideal goal, and you should have very good functional behavior in this world. Because ultimately, what do people see? People see only your behavior. They don't judge, or they don't look at your austerities, how much austere you are, how much worship you do. They don't care, because ultimately with them, what matters is how do you behave with them in a social context, right? So ideally, one should be functionally and ideologically correct, right? So even when Srila Prabhupada was asked, he is such a visionary, you see, the way he answers this question. So he was asked, how do we know your followers? True followers. Then Prabhupada said, they are perfect gentlemen and ladies. He didn't say, hey, these people are people who perform, they chant 16 rounds, they wake up early in the morning, they eat only vegetarian food, offered to Krishna. No, he didn't say any of that. He said they are perfect gentlemen and ladies. What does that mean? Because people care about the behavior, right? When you go around, but you have, a lot of behavioral issues with people, you curse people because they're not Krishna conscious, or, you see them like worms, they immediately, they will never be attracted to Krishna consciousness first thing. So it's very important that one should be courteous and gentlemanly. The behavioral part is very much important, because that's what defines the person, right? They don't really check your ideologies. So because people are attracted by our behavior, so that's what primarily matters. So this is one important thing. So another, just to stress again, one should, even though one takes to Krishna consciousness and has faith in Krishna as the Supreme Lord, that is not just sufficient. One should behave appropriately, with our surroundings. Having just faith in Krishna and not functionally behaving correctly is not correct. Neither just functionally correct, behaving with everybody nicely, but have no good ideology or roadmap, or you don't have a good destination, even that is not ideal. This is one important concept to understand. And another important concept clarified in this chapter is faith in itself is not necessarily a good thing. Having faith, oh, I have faith in this thing, right, doesn't mean much. So Krishna in this section gives framework to analyze endeavors by looking at how they are living, look at the modes in which they are operating. That's the way to analyze any endeavor. Right? If you want to really estimate, you need to see the modes in which a person is operating. How do you do that? That is the several verses discuss that. It is said that we make our faith, and then our faith makes us. Our faith defines who we are. Right? And what is our faith? It is determined by our choices we develop. Based on that, we start acting in particular ways, right? So we act according to our faith, in life. So even austerity can be done in demonic way, right? So we consider austerity is a very good thing, right? Tapas is considered is uh, one of the important characteristic, especially in spiritual practices. But even that can be done in demonic ways. What are the examples? Anybody remembers? We all know the stories, right?
Hiranyakashipu.
Hiranyakashipu is a great example of that. So he has faith. What is his faith? His faith is that if he does this austerity, he will get the boons, right? He understands that Brahmaji is there and he is going to give him boons. All that he needed to do is, hang on to the austerity and perform. Have such faith. He became almost like a skeleton, isn't it? He becomes like a skeleton, but still will not leave the practice. Imagine, even until that moment, he has the faith that, Brahmaji would appear and fulfill his desire. But what is his desire? That matters the most. So the modes in which he operates, that matters the most. So here it's mentioned, someone is fasting, but if that fasting is done so that they can gain the power to destroy the entire world, that is demonic austerity. Yeah. So if somebody has a strong faith that if I do this austerity, I'll get good result. So we know the story of Prakasura, right? Who prayed to Lord Shiva. What is his the boon that he asked from Lord Shiva is, whoever he touches on the head, he will be dead right there.
Turn into ashes. Yes.
Yeah, burn into ashes. So, and what did, just he got the boon from Lord Shiva, and do you know whom he wanted to test right after?
Shiva himself.
Shiva himself. So, and for to attract the mercy of Lord Shiva, and in such a way that Lord Shiva appears and is ready to fulfill any desire that he has, he must have had such faith in Lord Shiva, such faith in his austerity, right? He did that. So he gained the power, but for destructive purpose, right? So Prakasura. So what do we understand from this? Faith in itself need not be, can be done in a demonic way. It's not healthy kind of faith. Yeah. So now the question is, how do we recognize? This is the biggest section. How do we recognize the modes of a person? So we discussed so far two important concepts, right? So now further analyzing, how to determine the modes of a person. Yeah? So basically, Krishna again focuses on the functional aspect, not the ideological aspect of a person. Because that's the bottom line. What do you do? It doesn't matter. You could be a good teacher, speak this, that. It could be, appear externally very well, but ultimately, what do you do? That's what defines who you are. So basically, Krishna says, it is the modes in which you act, or the activities one does determine what is the mode in which he is living in. So primarily, he gives 4 things to determine a person's modes of nature. One is food, ahar, yagna, dana, and tapa. Yagna, dana, and dharma, right? Austerity, sacrifice, and charity. 3 things. So these 3 clearly defines in which modes a person primarily falls in. How exactly he does sacrifice, how exactly he does austerity, and what is, what's the charity he does, and what's the food he eats. So these are the 4 things. If you understand about any person, about these 4 things, that it does, you know exactly where he fits in. Yeah. Before that, we should understand the why actually these things matter. What is yagna, what is dana, and what is tapa, right? So we are at our core, we are the soul, right? We are the soul, and we are covered by subtle body and gross physical body at individual level. And there is one more layer above us, which is the society in which we live. That's so if you consider subtle and gross body as the circle covering the soul at the lowest level, the next level is the society in which you fall, or the social circle in which you fall in. So that is like a second circle. Then you overall fall in a particular environment. So that's the environmental cycle, right? So we all have at our core the soul that is covered by our subtle and physical body. That is our first circle. So what one does as austerity harmonizes one's physical and subtle body.
Prabhu, how you understand environmental circle? What is the difference social circle and environmental circle?
Social circle is because your behavior matters when you are you living in harmony with your society? Are you living? So the three questions are you living in harmony with your body, subtle body, and physical body? Okay. The second question is, are you living in harmony with your social circle? Means the way you deal with people. How do you behave with people around you? Right. And at the higher level, are you, how do you fit in the environment circle? Meaning, what are your considerations when it comes to living in this particular atmosphere? I mean, we'll discuss this a little more. That becomes more clear.
Yeah, sure.
Yagna, dana, tapa actually refers to those three aspects actually. Tapas refers to cleansing your body. Dana refers to, because you live in a society means what? You actually give something and you receive something, right? Right? When you live in this society, you there is give and take in the society. You pay for the country in taxes, and country gives you the roads, isn't it? So, and that is, at a business level you do that, but also you could be generous. You could so there is business charity. Business charity meaning you are ought to give and you give it. You pay the taxes, and there is generous charity. Like for example, our temple gives free prasadam. That is dana, charity, giving for the good of the society, right? So that is how you harmonize with your society or the social circle. And yagna, you perform sacrifice and you sanctify and harmonize with the environment around you. I think this becomes more clear as we progress. So these three activities, as it mentioned here, yajna, dana, and tapa, these are meant to harmonize within the circles we live in. Until now we might be thinking these are three independent things that any spiritual practitioner does, but it is actually about harmonizing with your physical and gross body, harmonizing with the society in which you live in, and harmonizing with the material nature around you, or the environmental circle. And yeah, so let's go. I think I have clearly written here. Austerity helps us to live in harmony with our body, and it is not some, of course, it is there in scripture already, but this is something that even modern science discover and accepts that. For example, modern science accept the value of fasting. We all heard about therapeutic fasting and intermittent fasting, isn't it? How it actually does so much good for our body, right? So when you do austerity, what happens? Or when you fast, for example, simply take fasting. When you fast, the 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 physical organs of your body, which were primarily focused on energy supply and digestion, right, now can focus on repairing the body. When you fast and don't exert any pressure on the organs to digest and keep the blood energy supplied through the body has time to recuperate and regenerate itself. So that's how you harmonize. And so when you practice tapas, you actually harmonize within your body. And now charity helps to live in harmony with our social circle. Like I already mentioned, we take things from our society and we also give back things to society. One is like generous, business reciprocation. We are living in society, taking things from society, so we give that in terms of taxes and bills that you pay. And the other is generous reciprocation, like for example, you just give charity to temple, or for good causes, build uh, build a temple or whatever, right? So the things that you are not really required to do, but you still do it as a generous reciprocation. So that is dana. You harmonize with your society by actually giving what you have, generously. So that is generous reciprocation. And finally, yagna. What is yagna? Yagna is the one that brings us in harmony with the broader cosmos. Okay. And sacrifice in some ways today is manifested. I mean, dana is also done by people who are not spiritually minded, isn't it? Like Bill Gates, he's almost giving all his savings to actually for the good of the society. And even yagna, in today's society, people recognize that we need to keep the environment clean. That's why this electrical vehicle boom is there now, right? Tesla and so many organizations, they're building environmentally conscious vehicles, right? So that's kind of, we can see the manifestation of such activities, right? Even in the broader society. Yeah, so through the kinds of activities one does, we can understand the modes in which they fill in, especially the kind of food they eat. Yagna, dana, and tapa. These all factors determine where one fits in actually. So in philosophy, there is this orthodoxy and orthopraxy. Okay, so these are very important concepts to understand. Doxy refers to the belief system. Orthodoxy is basically the belief system. Orthopraxy, praxy refers to the actions that one performs. Okay, so if you want to basically understand a person's consciousness, we need to understand their orthodoxy and orthopraxy, means their belief system and their general life. How do they live, what's their behavior, or what's their activities are, right? And interestingly, Krishna does not focus on doxy or the belief system. If you look at all these things that we defined so far, food, austerity, charity, these are all behavioral. They're not the belief oriented. It's not about whom you believe in. It's about the actions you do after you believe in something, right? So what ultimately matters is praxi, is what Krishna is saying here. Doxy refers to the doctrine. Praxy refers to the practices. Means what you do, right? Yeah, so this is what I was telling. We cannot just reject somebody who is an impersonalist just because he is not believing in what you believe in, right? We believe in personality of Krishna as the supreme, as a supreme Lord, and one may not have because of his upbringing or the interactions or the experiences he has. We should not just judge a person and treat them as untouchables just because they don't believe in what we believe in. Because in that sense, you can never be able to preach to anyone, because most of the people have their own experiences that shape their belief system. We cannot judge anybody based on what they believe in. If their actions are bad, or if their food they eat, austerities, dana, tapa, if they are actually not in proper order, then you have to understand where they stand accordingly, right? So often how they live is more important than what they believe in, often. So Krishna here focuses on the practices than beliefs. There, jnana, yagna, dana, and tapa. It doesn't mean that we just mingle and accept what they say or anything, right? It's not like that. So we should not just judge them down just because they believe in it, in a different thing than what we believe. Right? Ultimately, they might be having, they could be performing, other things properly. Their behavior is all correct. So we need to see how we can, perform Yukta Vairagya, or somehow connect them with Krishna, right? Rather than focusing on what they lack, which is their belief system, which is bad with them, right? So that's very important, practical instruction for all of us. So I think that's the main section. Basically, those four things determine where we fit in, where a person is. Do not judge a person by their belief system, but rather look at their activities. Right? They might be charitable, they might be, see the good in them, in their actions. Okay, do not just judge by their belief system. That's very what do you call, very narrow-minded and naive way of seeing things. You cannot just blanketly say, hey, these people are bad because they do not believe in personality. Okay? Because everybody is shaped by their own experiences and their own what they go through in life. So we should be careful in not just judging a person by that. But you can very well judge by their actions. If they have misbehaviors, or that is fine. You want to stay away from them, yes, you can. Okay, I hope that is clear. This is something that is very important as devotees. As we mingle in the society, we come across people who do not have proper or the belief system that we have, right? Yeah, so the last section discusses how sacrifices are meant for making anything transcendental. Yeah, so the purpose of sacrifice is to raise our consciousness to transcendence. And it is very clearly mentioned here, it is done with the consciousness and the chanting of Om Tat Sat. Om is the invocation of divine. Tat means a reality that is other than me. Sat refers to eternal things that are, so basically Om Tat Sat means invoking the divine, that is the ultimate reality, that is not me, means invoking, so clearly accepting that there is divine higher reality that is other than me. Offering everything you do to that. Om Tat Sat, when you chant, what happens is, any activity you do before that, if you start with this, with this particular utterance, then you're offering your activity to that, the eternal reality, the reality of the supreme absolute truth. Right? And this can be done by either impersonalist or a personalist, but specifically for as a devotee, right? So we actually refer to that Tat Sat as the supreme reality, which is Krishna himself, right? So what this literally means is, I am coming out of myself and offering myself to a reality bigger than myself. And I invoke that reality, which is the ultimate reality. All that I do, I offer them to that ultimate reality. Okay, so that is the consciousness in which we do any actions. If we do that, that becomes a sacrifice. Any activity, your chanting is also the ultimate sacrifice, actually. So this is the consciousness. You are offering yourself. Anything you do, or your consciousness itself, you are offering to that ultimate reality, which is other than yourself. Yeah. So I mean, I just referred to how that Om Tat Sat refers to, for us, if we contextualize for our own case, that ultimate reality is personality of Krishna. And Krishna says, if someone does any austerity, charity, with the understanding of that ultimate reality as the destination, basically, then they are on auspicious path. Else, their path is inauspicious. So, Krishna basically in this chapter referred to how do you estimate a person. There are two aspects to it. One is looking at their ideology, or orthodoxy or doxy, and the behavior or the practices the person does, which is praxi or orthopraxy. Krishna focuses more on the praxi or the practices than doxy or the beliefs that one has, because beliefs are primarily driven by one's own experiences and upbringing. They may not be aligned very well, but the practices matter the most, and they define what a person ultimately achieves. And the conclusion is, and what do you see in them when you measure his behavior? You see their food that they eat, Yagna, Dana, and Tapa. 4 things you have to see in them. And all these things, especially when they are done, right? Dana and austerity, when they're done with the with the understanding that ultimate reality, with the understanding that they are done as a sacrifice for this ultimate reality, then that is perfect. Otherwise, it's not. That's it. I think this chapter is very short.
Oh, Hari Om Tat Sat should be chanted before any sacrifices or
Any endeavor,
something.
any sacrifice and charity, austerity you do that. In fact, any endeavor, I would say, any endeavor you do, offer it to Krishna, right? That's what we do as, especially as Bhakti yogis. Accepting that, having faith in that absolute, and living in harmony with it by actually offering everything reality. So that's any questions? So there are important, preaching concepts we discussed. One is this one: faith in itself is not necessarily a good thing, right? Faith, he has faith in this or that, doesn't mean much, right? Because if faith can have, faith could be that if I do this austerity, I gain the power and control to, enjoy the way I want. So So having faith in itself doesn't mean much. For example, even Hitler had faith in vegetarianism. He was vegetarian. He would wake up very early in the morning. He has all good habits, but his behavior is extremely bad, right? The way he killed so many people in the world. So faith in itself doesn't mean much. And again, we have discussed about the demons like Hiranyakashipu and Prakasura, who had a lot of faith in Brahma as well as austerity, but unfortunately their faith is all to gain control and power. So such kind of faith is very dangerous. Right? So your behavior matters the most ultimately. So your faith, if is aligned with your behavior, that is best. I think the whole chapter revolves around this concept. Ideology and functionality, both are important.
So Prabhu, one question.
Mhm.
So if there are people who does not believe in Krishna or Krishna consciousness, but their action
Hmm.
is where they there are two kinds of category I want to mention. One is the one who is doing just simply some charity and behavior is good,
Hmm.
but they don't do any sacrifice or austerity. But an other side is people are doing a good austerity and some sacrifices, but they eat meat and they don't do any charity. So in such cases, how do we respect such people? What do we think about such people?
Right. So basically, no. Ultimately, you have to look into these two aspects, right? What is their faith? What is their ideology, or what's their goal? Second thing is their behavior, right? So the first category of people, they can you repeat the first category is what?
So Prabhu, first category focuses on food and charity, like eating the sanctified food and do some charity, but does not still believe. His belief is still not Krishna consciousness. Second is also does not believe in much in Krishna consciousness. He believes superficially, and he also does austerity sacrifices for material gain, but he eats meat and he does not believe in charity because he's like feeling that I need to acquire more
So,
material gain.
so if you look at the last line it said, so there are four combinations, right? You have two basically 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, right?
Oh
Kind of
yeah.
combinations for this. So considering ideology and behavior, these two aspects, right?
Right.
So until you have both correct, you have the right ideology and your behavior is also proper, you cannot achieve whatever you do is not is going to lead to auspicious destination. Okay, both have to be correct ultimately, but Krishna focuses more on behavior because behavior determines who that person is, right? If you have faith in God but you want to control things, that is worse actually compared to. So 1, 0 is bad than 0, 1, meaning so he compared those two aspects, but ultimately you should have both aligned, then that is the proper harmony with all the four things should be done in harmony, right? Harmony meaning in understanding with that Om Tat Sat, with that everything I do is for the supreme reality, right? uh, uh, until that comes, all these combinations are lacking something, but if somebody's behaviorally is better, behaviorally is correct, it is better than ideologically being right and behaviorally being wrong. Okay.
Got it. So behavior gets precedence over ideology.
But ultimately both have to be aligned to achieve perfect, because if behavior is correct, slowly one may change ideology, but if ideology is wrong, if
Behavior is wrong. Yeah.
ideology is right but his behavior is wrong, it's very
Very hard.
difficult because he understands the ideology but still he's behaving badly. What does it mean? It means that he is actually a hypocrite. right?
Mm.
Hypocrite cannot be easily said. But if suppose because of some upbringing or experiences, one doesn't like Krishna consciousness because he got cheated by a devotee, for example, right? So-called devotee. He's a good person, he does charity, he's very nice, all of that, but he had this bad experience, so he doesn't like devotees. Those people are more at one point they may again be changed by giving good experiences, but if one's behavior is wrong, it's very difficult to get them right. Yeah, so that's all about this chapter. Any other questions? Anybody would like to share? If you like them.
So Prabhuji,
Yeah.
we were talking about fasting and the value of scientific value of fasting. I think 3 or 4 years back, I think there were 2 students, one from I think South Korea and one from US. They did a research to find out the root cause for chronic diseases. How can people avoid getting like chronic diseases like cancer, brain tumor? And the gist of their research was for every 14 days, if you keep fasting, then you can possibly avoid this. And they were even given Nobel Prize for that.
We heard, yeah,
actually.
they got a Nobel Prize, and that day actually aligns with Ekadasi.
Exactly. I was about to say that. Yes.
So Ekadasi is the best day to fast, is what they finally found out through research. They proved that. See, that's what this is the ideal way of research. As even Harivilash Maharaj says, take what is given in the scripture and go back and analyze how it is correct. Right? So these people, of course, they may not be knowing about Ekadasi and fasting and all, but their conclusion came to such a this thing that if you fast on this, every 14 days on this particular day, it is ideal for your body and it avoids any chronic diseases. It's only about physical goodness. When we recommend fasting and Ekadasi, it's primarily for spiritual goodness. Actually, it's not just physical goodness; it's for the spiritual upliftment. Yeah, good. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah. Anandram Prabhu, you want to share something?
Yes, Prabhuji. So one thing which I kind of understood but not very clearly is this is the definition or the what we spoke about Om Tat Sat, right? So you are saying that before we do any sacrifices or any ceremonies, so Om Tat Sat means this is all for you, means does it mean that whatever we are doing, is it for Krishna?
Yes,
is that
for Krishna? Yeah, everything we do is for Krishna. Yeah, because he is the ultimate beneficiary. That's the basically Yagna. Anything we do is Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasa, right? Sarvaloka.
okay?
That is the understanding.
Yeah. Is it same as saying Aham Brahmasmi? Is it similar?
Aham Brahmasmi is I am that Brahman. I'm not this physical body. Right? Om Tat Sat means Om is referring to the auspicious invocation. Tat means that which is a reality that is different from me. Sat means that eternal reality, basically. Tat Sat means that eternal reality which is different from me. That is to whom I am offering whatever I do.
Oh, the eternal reality which is different from me. Okay.
Means not me. Tat is actually, Aham is actually me. Other. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, Prabhu, is that equivalent to Brahmarpanam sloka in
Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir. Everything we do has to be done as a sacrifice. I think similar concepts are, given in different words and verses, clarifying, some subtle aspects. That's all I would say. All these verses and chapters. Right? Devi Radhika Mataji?
Just 1 minute.
Sorry, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I had unmute challenge. I actually didn't have a lot of takeaways, but one thing I felt is that we should treat everybody nicely, even if they are supporters of impersonalism or from any different faiths. We should respect them and treat them nicely, and that will also reflect on the behavior, like the ideology or the behavior that we follow and we believe, so that we can also set an example and respect others. That is my takeaway today.
Yeah, that's a very good point actually. Our ideology matters the most. Sorry, our functional behavior matters the most.
Behavior.
Behavior matters the most. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
This chapter appears a little bit theoretical actually.
Yeah, practical takeaway.
Until
It's
you
very
hear
difficult for
clearly,
me.
until you hear very, very focusedly, it's difficult to take away the. Yeah, a lot of takeaways are difficult to have. Navadvip Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So, Prabhu, as you rightly mentioned, this is more on the theoretical side. Very little on what we can really take home. But what I understood is like how we have the food, which is a three different modes of nature. Similarly, even the sacrifice, austerity, and charity could also be in three different modes of nature. So that is something which I understood. And as everybody told, the functional behavior is more important. Many a times we are so much glued into our own world. We feel that we are very special. And my Guru Maharaj keeps reminding us. So he keeps telling that, don't think that you are a ISKCON devotee, so you are very special, very different. There are much, much better devotees than you, is what he keeps telling us. So I think the way we behave, the way we deal with people will definitely influence them to come join the movement and strengthen the movement. And the last thing is, as you rightly mentioned, the Tat Sat is very, very powerful. The eternal reality, which is different from me, and offering everything to the Lord from this dimension is something which I understood. What it means as Om Tat Sat, why it is so very important to at least make a mention of it before we do any offerings or sacrifice.
Correct. Anything you do, you can say Om Tat Sat. That's why they say, Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat, three times they say actually. Offering this to Krishna, basically. Yeah. Nitin Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. This is a very good class for me. There are a few doubts I used to always have about the faith of the people who are either atheistic or have a strong belief in something else. I used to always put them in a particular bracket and think that,
That is the biggest takeaway for me also.
yes,
We just look them down,
yes,
we don't see them as human beings, subpar human beings. We see,
right. So as I came to the Krishna consciousness platform, I started looking them like, oh, looks like they're just missing the boat. They don't know what they are doing. Their life is like so completely screwed. I will make all the analogies myself. So that is something I learned not to do that. The second thing is how to even observe people from a food, sacrifices, austerity, charity perspective. So that's a good learning for me. As well as I remember, like Navadvip Prabhu said that Jai Pataka Maharaj speaks about it. I think there is a one story I briefly remember some senior devotee spoke about that. Once Jai Pataka Maharaj was asked if you want to teach put all this moment work aside and teach only your disciples, what is the first thing you will teach? And he says, I'll teach them how to behave and how to establish a great relationship with each other. So these are the things. I will not teach them how to do the devotional service. That's not my concern. My concern is their behavior and relationship. That's a number one priority for me.
That is the
So it's aligned with what you're saying. Is you're also mentioning that as a devotees, one needs to be really focusing on their own behavior. So that's also another takeaway for me. So that's a, like this chapter is definitely a lot of takeaways, just but they're in small pieces. Yes, but thank you very much, Prabhuji, for teaching us these lessons.
Thank you. Thank you for having so many takeaways. Actually, it's inspiring me.
Those the small pieces. Yes, yes. Thank you.
Because this is like actually when I was reading for the first time, also I had this, very open realizations that we should not look down anybody. We should not, because everybody is shaped by their own experiences. We cannot judge by it. And we see some devotees, they wear kantimala, but they act irresponsibly. And how do you know whether they are good? Their ideology is right, but their behavior is bad. They don't take proper responsibility. They complain. They criticize.
Yes,
So,
yes.
in fact, the people who are outside, who are considerate and understanding, have good behavior, they are far better than just by their good behavior. They can be more easy to deal with than the devotees who are very difficult to deal with. We all have experienced people who are very difficult to deal with. Even though we want to help, their behavior makes us doubtful whether we can go near them and to help them also. Unfortunately, we all have such experiences. Sakhi Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. My takeaway for today is also the same, one should be ideologically and functionally correct. That's a very good thing. Even Harivilas Maharaj in his morning Bhagavatam class is lotly emphasizes on the particular how we behave with others, when they come to the temple, rather than our our ideologies. How we behave with others, is more important. And here today you also give an example of what when Prabhupada was asked, how do we know your followers? So he said they are perfect gentlemen and ladies. He did not say what austerities they perform. It doesn't matter even if you perform nice austerities and do a lot of scriptures, but when someone comes to the temple and you don't behave good to them, it's like all waste. It goes on a toss. So Harivilas Maharaj clearly, in fact, he trained us. He just keeps telling that when someone comes to the temple, knew how we have to behave and how to talk to them politely, even though they're they may be not liking about something, how to behave, all the things so this clearly says that it comes from Prabhupada. Whatever Maharaj is following is what Prabhupada has instructed him. Yeah, that's a very good take home from me, Prabhu. Yeah,
sharing your experiences. That's a very key takeaway, actually, what Prabhupada defined, because they know very well that's what matters ultimately, the behavior and the activities. Yeah, Nitin, Saravanan Prabhu, you already shared, right?
No, Prabhu.
Do you want to share? Okay.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So my key takeaway is, again, as all the devotees have discussed about it, it's the same thing, Prabhu. So how the ideology and the acting. So I can share one of the observations that I had made. Probably I'm not criticizing. What I have observed in South India is there is a huge rise in Christianity. And the reason is they act very nicely, in the sense they care for the people. And that is not something with the traditional Vaishnavas over there, and that is in a decline. So this is what I observed. Maybe my observation is wrong. But yeah, so the ideology, I can easily relate to what you said in the class. Ideology and how we act defines how we can influence people as well.
Yeah, I think you brought a very important point. Actually, that's how our preaching. This chapter now, it appears to me like a preaching guide for us. We have to behave properly. So, like you said, the Christianity is spreading because of their good behavior. I know. I actually have seen near my, my grandparents' home village. There are like so many churches, and the reason is they go to each home, they give them some ration, and they do all these things. They say that we'll pray for you, and they heal them, whatever, all material benefits only. But
Yes, Prabhu.
that's what people see, isn't it? That's what people see, and so they are attracted to it more than. So people look at the behavior than what austerities you perform, or what ideologies you have, or who you believe in. Who you believe in, nobody cares actually. They see only your character exhibited in your behavior. Yeah, I think very good point, Prabhu. Thank you.
It's actually in Christianity, Prabhu, what they do is, as part of their preaching, they address the immediate need of the people, Prabhu. If somebody doesn't have a job, they use their clout to get a job for the person. If somebody passes away in the family, they make sure they go to that person's house. They try to pacify their misery and all that. They give them money. They make sure they get everything they need. So the immediate need is addressed. And right now, actually, in the newly formed Andhra Pradesh, they are the whole religion of Christianity is catching up like a wildfire, and some of it is also aided by the current administration there.
Yeah, that's very much understandable actually. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Prabhu.
Maybe we have some lessons to learn from them, Prabhu.
Yeah. So this chapter is followed by them more than
the rate at which we are going, with all this egoism and everything in our society, we got to be very careful.
Yeah, I agree. Jai Shri Mataji, you want to share something? Or were you late?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavats Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, sorry Prabhuji, I was little late to join the class. I went through Upanayanam ceremony of my friend's son.
Okay.
And from there I had to rush to the temple because I had some service. So
no worries, man.
Yeah. I will listen to the recording, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Okay, so we are almost close. So one thing I wanted to check with you all, I wanted to request Balaram Leela Prabhu to actually show some of these things that gave me goosebumps. I told you the other day, I messaged you or talked to you, I think. Basically, I saw Lord Chaitanya's handwriting and Goswami's handwriting and many Acharyas' handwriting, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and it was really gave me a great experience in faith. So these are all there in BRCR, Bhaktivedanta Research Center in Calcutta. They actually, with a lot of endeavor, they collected all these things and they have these exhibit. They are doing a lot of work actually. It's not so visible, but it's amazing projects that they're collecting so many scriptures of our acharyas, Vaishnava acharyas. So I saw them. I wanted to check with you all because he lives in India. So it doesn't work. The current time that we have will not work for him to showcase those. I wanted you all to experience and see what he has to share, in BRC. It's just a tour of the place. While we are here, of course, we can always go to Kolkata and see when we go to India. But I thought to check with you all once if you're interested in seeing that.
Yes, Prabhu, I am interested in.
Yeah,
it's like a fascinating.